Good evening, everyone. This is Libby at Lifetime, and I want to thank you for making time to join us tonight. If you could, real quick, look for the questions box on your screen. If you're joining us online or through the app, there should be a questions box, and just let us know that you can hear me talking, and you can let us know how you're doing tonight, or if you want, because this is a Q&A, if you already have a question in mind for our guests tonight, you can just go ahead and type that in too. So one reason that I love for you to help us out with the sound check is so that you get the hang of participating, because that's really what we want to encourage tonight is this opportunity to answer some of your questions in real time and interact with you here at this webinar. So good, it looks like most of you are finding that so far. Welcome. So nice to see familiar names, but also I see some people that might be new to Lifetime's webinars. So for that reason, I just want to remind everyone we have a mixed audience tonight, which is really fun because it'll give us a chance to, answer topics regarding all different phases of what happens with adoption. So let me just make sure that our recording is up and going here. Looks like it is. So what I'll do here, Kim's going to give us a brief little introduction on how you can reach out and get a little bit of help and connect with Lifetime to learn more, no matter what stage you're in. And then if you'd like to kick us off tonight with questions for our guests after we introduce them, then go ahead and type those in the questions box. So Kim, I will type along some links for you, but if you could give us a little bit of information on how people could stay connected to Lifetime or get more information, that would be great.
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone. And we have some special guests today, and welcome to our webinar here at Lifetime Adoption. My name is Kim King, co-hosting with Libby Deniston, who is our go-to webinar gal. And we are so excited to talk with these lovely Lifetime adoptive mamas tonight and pick their brains about their experiences and get all our questions answered. So we appreciate you spending this time with us. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, but maybe you're new to Lifetime and not sure where to get started, you can always call in 1-800-923-6784. You can email adopt@lifetimeadoption.com. That's just adopt@lifetimeadoption.com. There is no S in there at all. ADOPT@lifetimeadoption.com. And you can fill out your free application if you just want to see if we could possibly explore further and entertain the idea of possibly working together toward your adoption, or just point you in the right direction, help you with your pre-planning or your planning if you're already ready to get started. You can definitely apply online for free at lifetimeadoption.com/apply. That's a free application, and there is no obligation with that. Like I said, it's just exploratory. Something really wonderful might come of it. Some great tips and pointers could come of it. Definitely assistance with your planning. We are happy to help you with your pre-planning, or at least let you know what to expect next once we get started, as we walk you through from beginning to end of your successful adoption. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/open.adoption. And you can find us on Instagram. Just look for Lifetime Adoption Center on Instagram, and you'll find us there. And we have a great little community of adoptive parents and all types of people related to adoption on Facebook and Instagram. Well, with that, Libby, I appreciate you getting everything set up and organizing our nice panel of guests today.
Oh, I'm so excited about these ladies. So I think that we probably need to do these more often, because when I put the shout out asking who would want to be on a panel, I got way more than 3, and there's no way we could juggle more than 3. So it's just so neat to see people enthusiastic about encouraging others. We're walking through steps where they once were. And so tonight we have 3 adoptive moms, and interestingly, they all adopted kind of around the same time. Not exactly the same time, but I actually didn't realize it until just before we began tonight that they their babies are all kind of within months of each other. So that'll be an interesting perspective too, to have that very recent fresh outlook and a perspective too. So I'm just going to bring up, we have some pictures to show tonight, so if you're online you'll be able to see those. And I will try and keep up, but since this is live and it's interactive, and because it's a Q&A and we don't quite know what topics are going to come up, or which of our guest panel is going to speak up first. So you may have to give me a little grace as I catch up and show pictures related to whoever is speaking. So on your screen, you will see pictures of our 3 guests tonight. We have Allie from Alabama. Tequila, you live in Georgia, right?
Georgia, yes.
Okay. And then Rachel, she's out in Kentucky. And so these are all Lifetime families, and they all have very unique details about their own stories, but also a lot of things in common that all of you can learn from too. So I just want to welcome you 3 ladies here tonight. And I would love if we could just, let's start with Allie and just get like a brief introduction of what brought you to adoption and when you met your daughter, like when you adopted.
Hi, my name's Allie. I'm from Alabama. My husband and I tried for probably 4 years and had a few pregnancies that unfortunately led to miscarriages. And God placed on my heart adoption around July of 2016. And so we went full speed with that plan and joined the Lifetime family. And that was about August of 2016, and we had our baby, who was born in Nevada, March of 2017. So it took about 7 months, and he is 1.5 now. So we are just very blessed, and it is definitely something that was God-given and God's plan. So we are just very blessed and very thankful for everything.
Oh. And we have these pictures here. I'm assuming this picture next to the car is when you were in Nevada and maybe first car ride leaving the hospital?
Yes. So we were in Nevada for 1 month, and that was the day that we got to leave Nevada to head home to Alabama. So that was one of the greatest days ever.
No wonder you have a thumbs up after a month there.
Oh yeah, it was
not common, but you do have to be ready. Oh, amazing,
yeah,
amazing.
That was us leaving for
awesome.
The airport.
Excellent, thank you for that. Tequila, let's go with you next. We have heard your story more in depth, so if any of you are curious about the rest of Tequila's story, you definitely need to go find her webinar. But Tequila, I would love, because there's a lot of people on here who haven't heard your story before, so if you could give us a brief introduction of you and your family, maybe what led you to adoption, and then also you have a special update since the last time we did a webinar together, so it's definitely okay to talk about how God has worked in your family story in a hurry.
Yes. So hi, my name is Tequila, and my husband and I, we tried for about 8 years to get pregnant, and we had quite a few miscarriages along the way. We went through in vitro, IUI, and I was able to get pregnant with IVF, but that pregnancy only lasted, I want to say, about 9 weeks, and it ended in miscarriage. So I want to say around November, Kevin and I started, November of 2015, we started talking about adoption after the last miscarriage, and we joined Lifetime in February of 2016, I believe, late February, early March. We were matched with Maddox's birth mom in 2017, February 2017, and he was born on August the 26th of 2017. And 3 months after Maddox was born, I guess everyone's praying so hard, and I went through so much infertility, I became pregnant with his baby sister, and it was like such a miracle. We didn't think the pregnancy would last, but she was born right on time, no complications. It was a very healthy pregnancy. They had me high risk the first 2 months. They were scared. I mean, well, the first 3 months, but everything was so healthy at each checkup. So God works in mysterious ways after being told there's a low possibility of ever being able to carry because my body didn't produce enough healthy eggs to carry, but she was there waiting. So we currently have Irish twins. She was born on March the 31st this year, and they're about a month apart, 11 months apart.
So you go all those years of trying to build your family to two within a year.
A year, yes. It was so funny when she was born. I mean, when we found out we were pregnant, because I was like, I just can't believe this. As a matter of fact, while we were doing the first webinar, I think I was like 2 or 3 months pregnant at the time. So we were still kind of unsure, but it ended up being a very healthy pregnancy, and she was very healthy, and she was born at 40, well, a little over 40 weeks. We didn't think she was ever coming. She wanted to stay here.
Wow, it's just amazing. Excellent. So, and you're back because I know how passionate you are. You're very active on our social media, and you just have such a heart for helping others to see the hope through adoption and to know how beautiful it's been for your family. So we're glad to have you back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Okay, Rachel, let's get a little introduction from you and your sweet family. You might have the youngest little one on the panel tonight. So let's talk about what brought you and Daniel to adoption and how old your little miracle baby is.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel, and we're from Kentucky. We struggled with infertility for about 13 years. And then God just made it very clear to both of us that adoption was just what he had meant for us. So we became active with Lifetime in October of 2015. And Miriam was born on December 20th of 2017. She was a surprise for us that day. We weren't matched with her birth mother in advance. We actually got a phone call while her birth mother was in labor that she had chosen us. And so we went to Maryland to meet Miss Miriam, and we got to come home with her back to Kentucky about 2 weeks later.
Aww. And so what's neat, too, I hope all of you caught this, is that each of you bring these stories of a lot of time before just coming to adoption, and then each of you had a different length of time that you waited just to adopt too. So we know that when people come to Lifetime, when you apply or when you start up, that you have a whole history before that, and that part of what we're doing over here too is to try and validate and keep you looking ahead to what's to come, because sometimes that wait is the heaviest part of just getting through the process. So I imagine all of my panelists could probably attest to that. But great, so we had a couple questions come in. Let me back up here. We already have comments about how cute all of your babies are.
Cute sounding too.
Yes.
Maddox, I'm so sorry.
Okay, so there was a great question. I wanted to back up. Kim, we had one emailed, and I'm trying to get over there to it.
I've got some of your questions that were emailed. It says, during the first phone call with the birth mother, they just want to know what kind of conversation was it? What questions did you ask each other? What did you talk about?
Oh, that's a good one. So we could just go kind of in order again if you want. So Allie, if you want to start off with that, and then ladies, if you want to just chime in, you know, or however this goes, it'll all work out. So Allie, what was it like when you first spoke with the birth mother on the phone? Did we lose her?
Oh, she might be muted.
Oh, okay.
Anyone feel free to jump in if you can share a little tidbit.
Yeah, that's fine.
When we first spoke with Maddox's birth mom, it was like a first date. We were both very, very nervous, and she said she was nervous too. We kept apologizing, like, we're nervous. But we pretty much asked her about her. We asked how she was doing, how she was feeling. I asked where she grew up at, what school she went, you know, what hobby she likes. I just really wanted to get to know her, because I didn't want her to think that, you know, I was trying to make everything all about me, or I cared about the baby more, but I cared about both of them, so I really wanted to know all about how she was feeling and everything.
Oh, wow.
That's really
sweet.
Wise. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, Tequila, if you just want to add a little to that, how did you juggle those natural like butterflies of, okay, this is happening, we're actually talking to her, but then also the nerves that come with that, like, I really want to make a good impression. What if I say the wrong thing? Because that's where a lot of people get a little frozen when they think about open adoption and getting to know their child's birth mother. So how did you just instinctively know to make it all about her, or was that something you had heard, or like,
that's
where's
something
that
that I heard from the webinars. During the wait, one thing I would do during school breaks was I would listen to the webinars while I was home alone, and that's one thing they said, just make sure you ask the birth mother all about herself, get to know her and know what her interests are, because you don't want her to think that you're being selfish at the time. But it just all felt so natural. But she's really shy, so she was very nervous too. And then after a while, we just would text, because I think with her being younger, she doesn't like the phone as much, so she does a lot of texting.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and you were you made that observation and just went along with it. You're flexible.
Yes, very flexible. And I think I would check in, because she's where she lives, she's pretty much alone, and I think her mother was ill at the time, so I would check in on her daily and just ask her how she's doing. And she also Maddox has a birth brother. I think he's 2 years older than Maddox, but I would always ask about him, and she would send me pictures of him, and she would say her son was telling us hello and everything. So it just, after a while of talking, it just became natural. And we still, like, to this day, we talk to each other on the phone every single day. We'll text on the phone every single day. I text her and say, good morning, how are you feeling? And she'll text back, I'm feeling fine. And I just went back to work from summer break, and she texts me first thing in the morning, I hope you have a great first day back at work.
Wow.
It's just the small things like that. And we actually, one thing we did, because with her being younger, she's really into social media. So we became Facebook friends, but no one knows her, only my husband and I know her name on Facebook. And she often comments on Maddox's stuff, or she'll send me messages a lot, and she texts me a lot, or she'll tag me in comments and everything. So we've become really close within this year. She texts me on my birthday. She texts Kevin on his birthday. She texts Happy Mother's Day or Happy Valentine's Day. I mean, we talk to each other like we're like sisters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that just kind of naturally developed over time. Wasn't anything you anticipated?
It wasn't what I was so nervous, because she's very shy. But I think in the hospital, I stayed in the hospital with her. I was in the room with her while she had Maddox, and I stayed the night with her and everything. And so we just bonded that way.
You know, and what I hope everyone's hearing too is that it's something that kind of evolved like any relationship. It doesn't just start out like, oh, we're totally familiar and we talk or text a lot. It just, what we notice here at Lifetime is this love and this caring heart that grows for your child's birth mother, that actually it's very common once you get to know her through the process, that after that baby's here, you actually want to share updates and you want to be in touch. You know, when it's a healthy connection, and that's what Tequila's built with her.
It was amazing.
So,
For Maddox's birthday, his first birthday, we actually did FaceTime while he did his smash cake, and we sang happy birthday to him. We FaceTime, and her and her son, Maddox's birth brother, they watched, you know, Maddox smash his cake, and they sang happy birthday with him and everything. So it was amazing. So I was really nervous about open adoption, because, you know, there are a lot of people that say, oh, no, she's going to want the baby back. Oh, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do open adoption. Just cut them out of their lives. They don't need to be in their lives. We heard a lot of that. But I wouldn't see it any other way. I love open adoption. I love having her in Maddox's life. And I tell Maddox that he does have a wonderful birth mom. And we try to FaceTime as often as we can, or send pictures. And she sends me pictures of his birth brother, his first day of school and everything.
Oh, wow. That's just a beautiful friendship, a good connection.
I definitely want to circle back to, for all of you to have a chance to talk about how you kind of got over those initial fears about open adoption, because I think that's really common. So Rachel, how about you? Do you remember maybe how you felt, or how you got over the nerves, or how you made that first conversation smooth? Because yours was last minute. So did you get an opportunity to really talk with Miriam's birth mother before you traveled?
No, we did not have any communication. Like I said, she was actually in labor with Miriam when she chose us. So when we got to the hospital, we were just kind of playing a whole lot of things by ear and just waiting to be updated. So it was actually, I think, day number 2 after Miriam's birth before she was ready to meet with us. We honestly did a whole lot of praying just that, we could be what she needed and, be comfortable with her and that she would be comfortable with us when we went to meet her. It is very scary. I, like Tequila, had learned in some of the webinars, to definitely be involved in asking about her and her life. So that's kind of how we started out, is just introducing ourselves to her, asking her how she was doing. She obviously was, recovering from giving birth, and asking her if there was anything we could do for her. And then we asked her to share with us some about her family, what she wanted to share with us. And then I just kind of asked her, what do you want to know about us? What questions can we answer for you? And some things that she wanted to, I was kind of afraid of what she would ask me, but it was very, very simple things like, are you going to have traditions with the baby? Like, will there be things that you do every year? Because that was important to her that, Miriam would have traditions that happened every year. So it was just kind of curiosity questions. I think she had the same questions for us that we kind of wanted to know about her. So it just evolved very naturally. We had a nice conversation with her, and then we actually met her again at the hospital when it was time for both her and Miriam to be discharged from the hospital. We met with her again. So, and we had a very good interaction with her at that time too. She is, I'm definitely an advocate of hers now. She is, I had to love her first to love Miriam. We did fall in love with her. She's the reason we have Miriam, so she's very special to us. And so she had saved a lot of things for us at the hospital. She let us hold her first, and she allowed us to name her. So we actually found out after talking from her that she was being very gracious to us and all these things that she knew were important first. She wanted us to have them. She didn't want them for herself. And so the bravery and selflessness in that has always meant everything to us. And, for her to share that with us, and, I think there were some staff at the hospital that was a little frustrated with her because they were hearing she doesn't want to hold the baby, she doesn't want to do this. But then when you actually were talking to her, she was saying, I'm saving that for them because I know it's important to them. And so I want them to have that. And I want the baby to be able to bond with them first. And so I just really felt like God laid it on my heart when we met with her before discharge. I said, would you like to hold her now? And she said, I would really love to. So she actually held the baby in the room for the time that we were doing all the discharge stuff. And so she got to spend a lot of sweet time with her then. She was calling us Mom and Dad to Miriam. She called Miriam by her name, and, she told her how much she loved her, and, this was just the best choice for her for right now. So it was really some beautiful moments that we had with her.
Which I love the contrast compared to, what Tequila shared, which is you still had this opportunity to build that connection, even though it happened at on a different timeline, a different time frame. And that it was in those very sensitive moments after the birth that really kind of bloomed and turned into something that's going to be a meaningful part of Miriam's story. And we had a great question come in that said there were a few questions kind of circling around, is it always open adoption, or can adoptive parents choose how open, or is it required to talk to the birth parents or their families? And to hear that a lot of it just depends on what that birth mother wants, but that the sentiments both of you expressed are more common than than maybe the crazy stories and stereotypes that go around about open adoption. Like, it can be very familiar, very personal. So, Allie, do we have you back on yet? Let's see here. We were trying to get her connected. So if you saw my little message go up, I had a little message go up that it accidentally went to the whole audience, and so I just want all of you to know that I don't have issues with your.
Libby, I wanted to piggyback off of what you said, like when they asked the question about which type of open adoption you choose. I asked Maddox's mom, birth mom, what she was comfortable with, and we were just going to start off with just sending pictures once a year, but I think we just became so comfortable with each other, it just changed to I talk to her every single day. So it just, I guess it all just depends on the relationship. But once you meet each other, everything always changes. You go in with one thing in mind, and it changed because she didn't think that she could handle speaking every day. But it's just all happening. Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All of you might find that even in a year or 5 years that it looks different than it does on this webinar today. Just because it's real people. It's not, not a system that happens. But really good. So if we could back up, I think Allie's trying to reconnect, so hopefully that we'll get to hear from her tonight. But since we're on this topic of open adoption, and I know there are several questions, could we back up a little? Because I think, and you ladies definitely could let me know if I'm not on track with this, but I think even once you've said, okay, yeah, I want to adopt, or I understand why open adoption exists, or I could see myself doing that, even while you're waiting, you still have these thoughts in your head of how much can I handle, and what would that be like to really, share my child's life in photos and updates, and maybe even have a visit a year down the road or over time as my child grows up. So can we talk a little bit just about how you kind of came to terms with the benefits of open adoption, how you learned to accept it, maybe even speak for your spouses too, because another side of this is that a lot of times one spouse comes to, have this piece about open adoption before the other. So Rachel, let's go back to you. Bring up another little cute photo of your sweetie pie here. And can you talk about what that was like for you and Daniel to just kind of understand open adoption and then decide, yeah, we could do that?
I think that part is the scariest because, like I heard Tequila say earlier, you definitely have a whole lot of people who I think just don't know what adoption is like now today. You'll hear them say things to you like, well, that's going to let them take the baby, or, do things like that. For us, that was very scary initially. I think, honestly, for us, we both were like, well, we hope somebody picks us that wants a closed adoption. But as we were working through the process and doing all the steps and praying about our adoption journey, I think God was just molding our hearts at the same time for these birth mothers, birth fathers, birth families. And then I was listening to these webinars and hearing beautiful stories of the relationships that the adoptive parents and the birth parents have. And I was like, okay, we could do that. And if you truly just sit down and think about it, it really just is one more person to love your child. And, for us, we definitely realized our birth mom loved her before we even knew about her. She carried her, she gave her body for her, she loved her the first, she knew about her first, so I really, I definitely think you grow once you sort of have a relationship with her to see that it's just one more person to love on your child with you. So some of the scariness, does go away a little bit. And then as you're moving through the process, I kind of think you feel a comfort in, okay, she's taking her steps to continue working on this adoption. It's not, she's not looking like she's making any changes about her decision to do adoption, and so you just continue to get more and more comfortable, and as you're more comfortable in what's going on in the adoption, you realize that, okay, I can do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sort of, I think, just allowing allowing it to set in little by little and understanding. I think hearing from people living with real life stories like what you guys have also helps. Like you said, to just know, okay, well, if other people are making this work, then, you know, maybe some of the things that people are trying to warn me about aren't as common as just sort of the average. It's another personal relationship, you know, very unique. You know, it's probably unlike some of your relationships in many ways, but I really appreciate you talking about that. Tequila, what about you and Kevin? Did one of you kind of come to terms with adoption or open adoption before the other?
I came to terms with it. Kevin, he was more nervous than I was about it. He was thinking, you know, that she was going to change her mind, or what were you thinking, Kevin? You were thinking that maybe it wasn't a good idea to have her so close. Would she come back and try to get, you know, you hear so many people saying she's going to come back and get them, but I think, Kevin, how did you feel about the open adoption?
We're getting a bonus gift.
Yeah. Yeah, we're soothing two babies. How did you feel about the open adoption process?
Back in the beginning.
You were nervous in the beginning, remember?
Yeah, a little bit, just not knowing exactly, not just from our perspective, but, you know, what it would mean to her if she's seen, you know, frequent updates on him. You know, and that's ignorance on my part, not knowing what to expect, but I think our relationship just developed, and that's something I didn't account for, was how strong our relationship would be with our birth mother. I wouldn't trade it at all now. He's loved from every angle, and I don't think there's any downside to that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Loved from every angle. That's beautiful. So, Kim, you're following some of these questions too, so please chime in if I'm missing any. Are there any that stood out to you that we should pop over next?
I have a question. Samantha wanted to ask Rachel what her open adoption looks like today, or how often you have communication for Rachel.
We are kind of just honoring birth mom as she goes through things. The way we settled it is, you know, she has the option to ask for pictures and updates when or if she's ready for those. So we're just going to see how things work out over time, you know, and see where that goes from there. We actually haven't seen, you know, or heard from her since we left the hospital, but she has all of our contact information and is welcome, you know, to reach out to us at any time.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
And we would love for her to, you know, if she wants to, and if she chooses not to, then we honor that too.
Mm. And I have to say, you know, when you were sharing about your hospital experience, I just had the biggest lump in my throat. It was like tears, tears, tears. I'm sure a lot of our listeners felt the same, just hearing the way you described the birth mother and her decisions in those moments. Those were just some of the most beautiful words I've ever heard on a webinar. I appreciate you for sharing that. And there's another question from Ashley, and it's for Rachel again. When adopting a baby of a race other than your own, have there been any struggles you've encountered or expect to encounter for interracial adoption?
I definitely was nervous about that. From the very beginning, we were open to either gender in any race or biracial child. Daniel and I were comfortable with that. We did have concerns about how our community would feel, how our families would feel. You know, they were telling us in advance that they were okay with that. But it's just really turned out to be really beautiful. I have, you know, in talking with Libby and preparing for this webinar, I was telling her, I've just learned to be very humble and honest. There was things about, you know, Miriam being African American that I didn't know. I didn't know how to take care of her hair and her skin. And so when we found out Miriam was African American, I started, you know, although we were in another state, you know, starting the adoption process and bonding with her. I just started reaching out to people, and I said, okay, I'm going to need to know what to do for her skin. I'm going to need to know, you know, what products to put in her hair. And so I was already reaching out for help, and, you know, I find people in my community still now that will help me. And so I just find myself being really honest when I don't know how to do something. I just ask for help. And we have just fallen in love with her, and to us it wouldn't matter if she had been purple polka dotted, we would have loved her. She was there was a beautiful moment when we walked into the nursery and she was laying in that little bassinet. She opened her eyes and looked at us, and we looked at her, and Daniel and I looked at each other, and it was like the three of us were just in agreement. We're going to do this. We're each other's people, and we've got it all worked out.
I love that. You're each other's people, which I think, honestly, adoptive parenting, you know, most of you can agree, even if you haven't gone through it yet, that sometimes it's easy to feel a little bit like, why just to adopt do I have to go through so many more steps to prove myself than, say, the average family does, just to, you know, give birth to a child that they may not have even been planning for. But what you just said, Rachel, I think is really kind of the value when you're going to adopt. It's so intentional that you're aware of needing to humble yourself, or needing to be open to asking for help, and needing to know that there are people who would love to answer questions that you don't know, whether that child shares race in common with you or not. Every parent is going to come across something that they weren't prepared for, and it's, I think, in a way, adoption sort of prepares you to be more open to letting that help come however it needs to come. So I love that you gave that tip too, because I do think if there's anyone on the call who's thinking, well, I would love to adopt a child that of any racial background, that, you know, that's not something that concerns us, but you want to prepare yourself, you know, you might identify with what Rachel said and just look forward to kind of building that community once you know more about your child too.
Definitely.
So,
yeah, that's definitely
right.
been a game changer for us. It's just everybody jumping in and helping us and giving us advice, and you really get to then see even more people fall in love with your child too, because they come to love them too.
Mm-hmm. Tequila, there was a question that came in, and both of you spoke to this, but you definitely emphasized how people around you kind of like spoke their opinions. And that you kind of had to work through that. But we had a great question here that said, how can I help my family understand our decision to adopt compared to alternatives, and to be excited about the process with us? And I think especially since you talked about going through IVF and having made those attempts before too, that a lot of people these days don't always understand when you leave those procedures behind and decide to pursue adoption. So how would you answer Autumn's question here about helping her family to understand their decision to adopt?
Let's see. We kept ours private for a while. I know we kept like our IVF, IUI private, so a lot of people in our family didn't know that we were adopted, and they didn't know about the miscarriages. But when they finally found out, they were really excited. Of course, you had people saying like, they are going to take their baby back, the negative comments. But once he came, everyone just fell in love with him. I think they all just changed their mind and said, oh, this is okay once they met him.
Yeah.
It's like you still, I think it was mostly like our older relatives of what they saw growing up.
And on my side, my uncle actually did adopt my twin cousin, so on my side there was a little more familiarity with it.
Yes.
A different scenario altogether, but
yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, if your family has experience with adoption already, then it might not be a conversation you really need to get into with the rest of your family.
I think it was mostly my grandmother. She was really concerned. She was like, well, what if the baby's born addicted to drugs? Well, what do you know about this girl? How do you know, what she's doing right now? And I was like, well, they give us a lot of information on her. They screen. I think you guys received her birth records, and we received a copy of her birth records with like her personal information whited out, but we were able to see her medical history and everything. And I don't know. It's just that my grandmother just fell in love with him once he came. All the doubts that she had in her mind, I think they all just melted away. This is her baby, pretty much, because she watches him while I work. So that's Maddox's second mama right now. But she had a lot of doubts and a lot of questions. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think we have Allie back on too.
Huh.
She shows as muted though. This is the fun behind the scenes of webinars when we get to do things like this is we never quite know what's going to happen because even a practice round can go totally smooth. So Rachel, how would you answer that? Did you, even while you waited, I think that this can be a common question. I mean, you waited about almost 2 years, it sounded like, or around 2 years. So even while you're waiting, a lot of times those friends and family have questions. What's going on? Or have you thought about this and that? Or are you sure you still want to adopt? Or they kind of don't understand where you're at with your decision. So did you ever walk through, like what Autumn's talking about, you know, how can I help my family understand our decision to adopt compared to the alternatives? You know, how would you answer even a question about what can I just tell my friends and family about how to be there for us just as we wait?
Right. Daniel and I are a little different from, you know, Tequila and her husband. We never pursued some of the more advanced options, you know, with our fertility journey, even though, you know, we were in the midst of that for so many years. And so, you know, when we just felt God really speaking to us that we were meant for adoption, we were just real honest with our family and friends. You know, this is where our heart is. This is what we feel like God's leading us into. You know, we invite you to help us. We obviously need to do some fundraising. We need to be praying. And so, you know, we kind of kept them involved and just openly shared our hearts with them. You know, if there were people that weren't supporting that, we didn't necessarily have to talk to them about that's what we were doing. We were blessed that none of our immediate family was against it or not for us. You know, all of our immediate family jumped in and helped us with fundraising and doing things like that. We definitely had church family and friends, you know, rally around us and help us and be praying for us. During the wait was a little bit hard. Our wait was 2 years and 2 months, which seemed like forever at the time, and now it seems, you know, very short. But Daniel and I would both have different times where, you know, I would be telling him like, you know, we can't do this, you know, this is never going to happen, and he would encourage me and kind of ground me back down, and then there'd be times where he would be frustrated with the process, and I would kind of be able to pick him up and encourage him. It would just be like kind of every time we wanted to get discouraged, if we would just really get to praying about it and look back at all of the prayers that God had already answered, from the financials of adoption to, you know, your home study process going well, everything with Lifetime going well. It'd be like God has answered all these prayers. We know He's still leading our hearts here, so He's going to work it out. You know, that's kind of what got us through. And so sometimes when people would ask me about adoption, I'd just say, I don't want to talk about it. I just had to be honest. If I wasn't in the place where I was feeling positive about it, I just didn't talk about it. And so then, you know, if they came back later and wanted to talk, I'd be like, okay, I feel like talking about it today. But, you know, 2 weeks ago I didn't. And so I would just kind of be real honest with people around me. I can't talk about it today. You know, I'm discouraged too, but...
Yeah. So I showed Allie is green, and then she's red again. So Allie, you may need to unmute yourself. But I wanted to hear from Allie. I think she's back. Allie, do we have you back? Yes. Repeat that again. Yeah, you're a little choppy, but let's give this a go. So we have been talking too just about what open adoption looks like, or how you know, how you kind of came to accept and look forward to open adoption, because sort of the natural response is usually to be a little hesitant about it at first until that education and that awareness kind of sets in. So were either of you as a couple ever kind of like ahead of one or the other when it came to choosing adoption or being ready for open adoption?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just so when we first started, I was a little bit hesitant on an open adoption. And the gal she changed her mind, and it was actually for a long time about really saying where mother goes to, and what first was going through, and that
We're catching like every other word there. Kim, could you hear Allie?
Actually, it sounded like it was a little, some electrical interference.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. What a bummer. Allie, I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Maybe type in her response too, and we can share it with the audience too.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, Allie, if you're online and you can type, go ahead and type that back. Kim, did you see another question that you wanted to jump to?
Let's see. Well, I don't know if this one, if we've tied in this yet, but how would you suggest staying encouraged? And they've hit a 1-year mark with Lifetime and haven't been matched yet. So they just want to know, you know, they're feeling a little discouraged and worried that they won't be able to adopt before their 2-year contract is up. And I know that we, of course, have an extension process too. But of course, families want to adopt in a timely manner. And how would you say what would you recommend for them to stay encouraged, and any tips you'd have?
Yeah, I mean, Rachel even made a comment. She waited over 2 years, but in hindsight, it looks kind of short. But when you're moving through it, it feels longer. And I think, Tequila, even you would say all those years, you know, that you spent just trying to get to the point where you did adopt, but even once you decide to, even a matter of months can feel like, when is this going to happen? So, ladies, let's I don't know which one of you wants to kick off on this, but how did you handle the wait? I think it's probably the best part of that question.
I think
I'll speak.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tequila.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think we prayed a lot. It was hard. I think it was really rough on me compared to Kevin. Kevin was like my brick pretty much, but the wait was hard. We did a lot of praying, and then one thing that we started to do, I think I read it on one of the little Lifetime checklists. I read it on another website. We dated each other. We went and visited different places in the city, in Georgia, in our city, and tried to travel a little bit to take our minds off of it. And I'm glad we did date a lot, because right now we can't date at all. But that really helped us trying different adventures each weekend and everything. So that helped a lot. And just praying, and then having someone to talk to about it. I talked to my best friend about it each day, and we would pray together.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Can
I love that.
Something?
We dated each other. I think that is such a simple way of saying make the most of your time while you're waiting. But that's excellent.
Do you mind if I add something?
No, not at all.
Sorry, I happen to be walking past her. She's pouncing around on the phone. I found the process of trying to find creative ways to get our message out there and get our profile out there to be a little bit therapeutic as well. You know, not only working on the materials themselves and finding the right photos and the right captions for our profile, but you know, how to use social media to reach out to as many people as possible, to let them know to be on the lookout, and you know, if you hear of anybody considering adoption, pointing them our way. So it almost gave you something that you could take the reins, so to speak, because you do. It's out of your control, but at least in some small way, you were doing what you could and laying your hands on what you could do. I guess to expedite things. Yes, it's going to happen when it happens, but that was a bit therapeutic to me.
Yeah, I think that's so true. Sometimes I think adoptive parents might feel like that hurry up and wait, and then there's nothing left to do. But in this day and age, there's even more ways to continue networking on behalf of your adoption, and just being willing to talk about it. I think you just never know who might know someone either. But even if it doesn't go somewhere, you still know I'm trying everything I can. You know, like maybe you want to freshen up a profile or something.
And in that process, you learn a bit about yourself and what you're looking for in the whole experience. Each time you revisit it, there's going to be a new thought that passes, you know, and you become more comfortable with certain things. So.
Yeah, that's a really great insight. I appreciate that. It's nice to have you pop on. We weren't sure if you'd be here.
As Kevin was talking, I just now thought about something, and I also said it in my webinar. I know during the wait we want to join a lot of those Facebook groups, but just be very cautious of the ones that you join because they can really dampen your spirits and everything. I think because bickering and they go at each other. So that's one thing I had to do is I had to step away from those Facebook groups. I wasn't participating, but just going on my Facebook feed and reading these comments was just really just bringing my spirits down. So that's one thing that you may want to do. Just be cautious. If you join Facebook groups for adoption, just be cautious of the ones that you join, or you just want to maybe take a step back from them.
Yeah, I think that is really wise advice. Because also the other thing to take into consideration is you never know the full story. So if someone's in a really hurt place, they may not tell you everything about what they've walked through or what just happened because of confidentiality, or just because most people usually give the highlights. And so you do really have to really put on a discerning hat when it comes to building any kind of support network, but especially when you're moving through adoption. So you don't get discouraged, but you also don't get bad advice too.
Yes.
So Rachel, what would you say, you know, when we're talking about getting through that longing and that wait, and watching the months tick by?
To be honest with you, the first, you know, probably 6 to 7 months or so, you're really busy with a lot of stuff. You know, the home study, you're getting your profile done, and so that time kind of moves by quickly. And then sort of my next frame of reference was, okay, a mom carries a baby for 9 months, you know, so it's not even been long enough yet, you know, for our child to have, you know, be born. And so I kind of moved, and then as it got longer and longer, it got harder. I really enjoyed picking up and helping, you know, with like the Lifetime Foundation and the things that they were doing for birth mothers, because I felt like I was taking care of birth moms, even though I didn't have a birth mom for me yet. You know, we were, you know, helping with them. The others that were reaching out to Lifetime, I really leaned on, you know, Natalie and Linda a lot in the Florida office of Lifetime. You know, I would call or email and say, you know, I'm discouraged today, or, you know, following up with, is there something I can do or something I've not done that I need to be doing? You know, I wanted to make sure that as soon as I got that email that said I was low on profiles with Lifetime, I was getting them ordered, because I didn't ever want you all to not have a profile to be able to send out. So I just made sure that I stayed on top of things. And then it honestly was our family and friends around us in our church just praying for us continuously, and us reaching out to them and, you know, in prayer. And it kind of is very, like I said, Miriam was born on December the 20th, and I was actually at work that morning. And just about an hour before we got the phone call that we had been chosen, I was fixing to email into Lifetime and say, what is wrong with us? You know, it was almost Christmas time, and I think that brings up, you know, because we really wanted a child to celebrate Christmas with. And so, you know, I was having some pre-Christmas discouragement, and I really was, and I just got busy at work. And then it was about an hour later, Chrissy called, and I couldn't even talk. I was like, I'm just going to write down whatever you say, but I'm not going to be able to talk to you, so you just talk to me. And so then I thought back, and I was like, you know, how quickly things can change. And then I know it was really hard for me even I was always excited for everybody's successful adoption stories, even listening to the other Lifetime families in those webinars. But you do in your head think, when's it going to be my turn? And, you know, sometimes that would even be, you know, I'm ready for it to be my turn. But I think you will find when you have your child, you will know what the wait was for, because it was for that specific child. That God really does have a plan, and one specific birth mom and one specific baby that's meant for your family. And so when God works all those details out in its time, there's such beauty in that, and you can see the perfection of everything He's put together. That, you know, Miriam was the one that was meant to be ours, and, you know, so now, you know, we can see just what all God did in that, and to put us together with her.
Yes. I really appreciate everything you ladies shared tonight, and I'm sorry that we couldn't hear from Allie tonight, but we'll have to have her back on a different webinar because she definitely has a great story to share too. As we wrap up, I know Kim probably has to hop off here pretty soon, but if you ladies wanted to share, there's a lot of people listening tonight who are kind of in that boat of, how do I know when it's time to move from thinking about adoption to I'm going to start the process, or moving from going through infertility or miscarriage and loss to maybe, you know, maybe adoption is the way God wants to build our family. Could you both speak to how you just knew, you know, that was the next path for your family?
I think pretty much Kevin and I, we prayed on it, and I didn't want to put myself through another fertility treatment, and Kevin didn't want to see me go through another fertility treatment and have another miscarriage. So we prayed on it a couple of months before it all happened. We decided to do adoption.
So Rachel, what about you?
You know, for Daniel and I, we definitely had prayed for a long time for a child, and particularly for us, we never felt, you know, like fertility treatments were the option for us, so we never pursued them. I was the first one thinking about adoption and talking to Daniel about it, and then so we prayed specifically about that together, and then we just, you know, we really felt like that's what God told us to do, and so, you know, we were kind of looking at each other, how are we going to pay for, you know, the adoption fees and things like that, and I said, I don't know, but let's just climb out on that limb in faith and take that step. And so that's what we did. We reached out to, you know, some agencies, Lifetime being one of them, and we just felt such peace when we talked to everyone from Lifetime, and we just knew that, you know, Lifetime was the agency for us, and so we filled out that application and started that process. And you know, I have come to learn since then with Lifetime, you know, that, you know, there was so much that you all had us prepared for through the webinars, and just, you know, you all were there for us every step of the way, you know, having us prepared for what each step was going to look like and how things were going to happen. And, you know, I would just say, if you feel like adoption's for you, you know, just pray about it, and if God gives you that on your heart that that's what you're supposed to do, you just have to step out in faith and start the process.
Tequila, I have a photo from your last webinar I was going to bring up just so that people could get a little sneak peek of part of Lifetime's team, because you guys actually got to go to the office.
Yes.
And that's something, it's such a treat for us because we help people across the country, and we don't always get to meet them face to face, even though we feel like we do. In fact, I mean, both Tequila and Rachel and Allie, I remember all of you being on webinars, and so for me doing every webinar, sometimes it's a little bittersweet. Like, I'm so excited to see you adopt, but then I don't get to see you pop up anymore. So we sometimes feel like we get to meet you, but when we actually get to meet you, it is a bonus. It's the cherry on top. So, you know, what
you
was...
guys have become like an active part of our... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just laughing at the picture because we recently vacationed, and I think I tagged you and Tiffany in the picture, and Tiffany said, oh my God, please tell me that you're down here near us in Tampa. Please tell me so I can see you.
Exactly. you know, and that's, I know sometimes that's hard for people to picture. What would that be like to work with a team that I have maybe not been able to meet face to face? But you know, let us give you a chance to get to know Lifetime better. Webinars is one way to do that, but also to call and connect with us and just start asking the questions. And as you research who you want to help you adopt, you know, again, go back in prayer and get that peace of mind about which direction you're going, because, you know, maybe God has a channel that's opening up in one direction, but if you're stuck in sort of what you think it should be like, that, you know, sometimes that can hold you back. But I love that both of you really leaned heavily on prayer. I think that cannot be understated. And also to know that it really can be a leap. You have to take that leap. With all things, I would say, that are the big callings in life, we don't always know which way they're going to go, but the only way you're going to find out is if you take the next step. Is there anything you two want to say before we wrap up tonight?
You know, the people at Lifetime definitely became, you know, extended, you know, support to Daniel and I. I, you know, talked and emailed with Natalie a lot. She was a really great encourager to me. Either you've done everything, you know, just keep hanging on, or, you know, if, you know, it was the email that you're getting low on profiles, you know, let's get some more sent into us. And then, you know, even now when Miriam has a milestone, or I'm taking that, you know, 7 months picture or whatever, you know, when I'm thinking of who I'm going to send that to, I definitely think of people at Lifetime. You know, I'm like, oh, I'm going to email that to Natalie, or, you know, some of you all are on Facebook and can see me, and so I know you all get to see your updates that way. And so I definitely, you know, feel, you know, all through the process, I definitely felt connected to everyone there.
Thank you. We love getting baby updates. And if any of you follow us on social media, you probably have seen a lot of those updates too. But honestly, those are just a fraction, because a lot of families just kind of, life gets going and they don't always have a chance to send and share updates. So we share as many as we can. Sometimes for confidentiality reasons, we can't pop some updates up as well. But I think that is a really encouraging way to know that if it worked for those families, it's going to work for you too. That is another way to stay positive while you're waiting. But I just want to thank both of you for being here tonight, and we will have to coordinate something to get Allie on another webinar here, because that was just a bummer that that didn't go. But you both contributed some amazing insights and tips and answers tonight, and I'm seeing a lot of comments from our audience about how helpful you've both been. So I just want to thank you both for taking time away from your families to be here with all of us.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you guys for everything you've done to create our families.
Oh,
absolutely.
It is such an honor. It's such an honor to be on these and to get to hear you encourage others with the miracles God worked through your yeses to adoption. And I want to thank all of you who attended. If you have any follow-up questions, or you need more information or feedback, or you have feedback to share about tonight's webinar, you can always email us, call us, you can message us through social media, whatever works for you. If you have a coordinator at Lifetime, remember to stay in touch with her and let her know how things are going, especially if she's waiting on you for something. Because like Rachel said, you just don't ever want to be in a position where we don't have what we need to help you. So we hope all of you will keep in touch, let us know how we can help, and I hope you all have a great evening. We'll talk with you again soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Good night, Maddox.
Yeah, bye, Maddox.